In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can make a simple yet effective string section using my rule of 5. If you're a beginner music producer or don't have much music theory knowledge and you want to learn how to create a beautiful sounding string section, then this is the video for you. So the rule of 5 is something that I have derived as the simplest way to build up a string section, incorporating all the elements needed for a string section into a simple video for you, a little tutorial video. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm just going to be running you through the 5 rules, and we're going to be building a string section. You can watch me do it, and this is something you can apply for yourself. So today we're going to be making a string section in the key of G major. Now, for those who don't know music theory, don't worry. Don't let that throw you off. Basically, G major is your classic G, E minor, C, D chord progression, which is 99% of pop music can be played with. So in terms of writing a production, you're all just using the white keys, except with the variation of the F sharp, which obviously is for the D chord. So just make sure that the only white key that you cannot touch under any circumstances in the composing of this score is the F. Unless you want to be edgy, you know, or jazzy. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the first element, which is the root. Okay, so the root is obviously you have a chord here, let's say a G chord. The root of that is the G. Well, that's what I call it. So the root of the scale. So if we were now to play an E minor, it would be the E, C minor, C, D, D. So we're just going to literally record and play G, E, C, D. There we go. And we're going to make sure it's on a lower octave because this is the bass note. I like that. All right, here we go. Okay, so we've got that recorded in. So we're going to quickly quantize that to 1/8. Drag that across. Now we're going on to rule number 2, which is the body. So the body is probably what your typical beginner producer would actually use for a string section, which is just 2 chords, triad and even hand, 3 fingers, playing a G, an E minor, C, D, like that. Obviously we'll probably go up the octave a bit. Classic, but that's really mid-heavy for starters, and there's not much dynamics to it at all. We want it to sound a lot more interesting. So, to do that, we obviously want to incorporate it, but we want other elements, which is why this is only one of the rules of 5. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to record the chords in, but we're not even just going to follow our hands around. We're going to try and use the whole keyboard to open up the dynamics a lot more and express some of them higher and lower dynamics. So what we're going to do is we're going to play G, E minor, C, D, but I'm thinking for the C we're going to go up instead. Let's record that in, see what happens. There we go. Okay, so our string section is starting to come together. This is what we have so far. Okay, so now we want to add the melodic value, and this is the movement, because strings need to have movement. Strings, by their very nature, are probably one of the most humanistic instruments out there, because there's so many things of the airiness, the change in velocity, the softness, yet the dynamics that a violin can bring. So we want to really convey that across, because strings have this really good way to bring an emotion across or a feel in a song. So starting to add movement and melodies starts the storytelling off in the production. You don't just do the storytelling from the lyrics or the vocalist performance. It can also happen in the production as well. So we want to tell a story with these strings. So now, because we're in the key of G, as I've said, using every chord except every white key except the F, where we go to an F sharp, we're just going to play around with it and just, you know, go up and down the key. This is a very easy key for you, so if you don't know any music theory, you should be able to follow along. So now we're just going to try and think of some melody. I like to incorporate 3rd and 5th notes, so if we're playing a G, I'll be dabbling in the B and D. If I'm next, then it moves down to an E minor, I might dabble in the G and B. And then C is the E and the G. So on. So let's just spend 10 to 20 seconds just playing around. Okay, so there's something there I quite like. I'm going to play it down the octave, so we're going to go. If I can do that again, I'll be very happy with that. Okay, here we go. There was one thing I didn't like there, so I'm going to quantize that. And it was just around here. Let's have a quick listen back. Da, da. Da, da. There you go. So again, even after you record it, don't be afraid to go into MIDI and change things up afterwards. So, now we're on to the counter melody. So we got a melody in, we got a body, got the root, but we want a counter melody because we want a variation of dynamics. We want that movement to really be present in the strings, not only to add a fullness to the track, but also to make it sound more interesting and have a constant change. So now we're going to think of something else. On the whole, this is very kind of arpeggiated, this, so I've probably, with the counter melody, will try and stick with something that's either ascending or descending. How do I want this string section to climax when it gets to loop? Do I want it to be something that's lifting, like going up and up, or descending where it's going to end more on a cadence? So let's just play around with that. Again, I'm just going to play around with it for 10 seconds before we think of something to do with it. Okay, so I'm thinking of, that didn't sound very good there, but I'm thinking of going from the fifth here. So, I like that. We're going to go with that. If I can get this right, hang on, let's just quickly just see what happens here. I'm just going to see how this goes. We're just going to ride with it. We're going to improv, but that seems like a good start. Play with it. Just like that. I mean, there's some notes in it which I'm a bit like, meh. But again, I just played around with it. On the whole, this is more ascending. If you kind of think that this is like a stock market, you can imagine your line, the average of it going up. So let's have a quick listen back and see if there's anything I quickly want to change. Oh, look at that. Tell a story. Uplifting. Sure, let's just stick with that. Why not? For the sake of this video and the time of this video. So now the last thing we need to do is the development. Development rule number 5. This is something that you'd scatter more into choruses of songs that final little bit of uplift to the sound of the string section. Now, this is normally the very high, airy parts of the strings, the bright, sort of opens up the production. So, again, we're going to focus high up the key, so I'm going to move the octave up on my keyboard. And sometimes I like to play around with either the first and fifth, or the third and fifth, or like literally within the triad, and just holding down chords again, but higher up the octave. Maybe with a little bit of movement as well. So again, 10 seconds, let's have a quick play around, see what happens. So I'm going to... So that was awful, but I've got the idea there. So now I'm going to try and record something in that will stick. Here we go. This just goes to show when you do things in one record video, it's not always perfect. But this is the perfect example. It's not always going to be perfect when you try it. You've got to mess around. So I'm not going to edit any of this out at all. Okay, so let's try. I kind of like that third and fifth, so I'm just going to hold down the third and fifths and just see what that sounds like. Here we go. I did it wrong again. There you go. Real time. Okay, so a little bit fiddly there, literally just playing around the chords again, just adding some little bit of harmonizing notes in there as I was just really just playing the chords in, just to try and add again just some movement to it. And if you put it all together, using the rule of 5, we have now made a string section. So one quick little bit of mixing I'll show you is sometimes with the strings you go one of two ways. You have a quick listen to it. Sometimes I'd like to just cut a little bit of the body out in the middle, and especially I hate the 500, 800 frequencies on the string. So let's just quickly do that so we can listen to this properly. Okay, so using the rule of 5, this is the string section that we've come up with. So there you go, guys. That is how to write a string section using the rule of 5. If you're new to music production, then this is really handy for you while you learn the music theory side of things. But on the whole, basically, even though I have a kind of good understanding of music theory to an extent now through years of playing the piano now, I still find myself using this rule all the time. It has become the most efficient and fastest way to build a string section, especially for someone like me who's making beats every day and is on a time limit to write a string section. So yeah, I hope you found this video helpful, and smash that subscribe button if you did, by the way, because there's loads of more videos like this coming on Pop Beat Breakdowns. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, keep making music, and I will see you in the next video.